Welcome back to the Real Femme Sapien YouTube channel where I give cultural commentary, and today we're going to look at a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. We're going to take a look at DV. I would say the actual words for that, but this is YouTube, and as such we have to speak as YouTube wishes. So we're going to look at the untold story from Chris Brown's side that actually has been released for a while but hasn't been that popular in media, where he describes the events that took place between the big Rihanna incident where he looked like this horrible bad guy. And you know, yes, there is something to be said about a lack of emotional control on his part, but it doesn't seem like it was unprovoked. And the reason why I am so passionate about this subject of DV is because I think people have a huge misconception of it. I've made a lot of observations being in a lower socioeconomic status and in a minority community to where I could look around and I could say, well, good grief, Charlie Brown, like it kind of seems like this stuff can also be solicited by women. But for some reason, people don't want to acknowledge that it's possible that women can have violent streaks, and truly it is communities that suffer when we neglect that, and it's also children who suffer when we neglect that. After we react to this video, we'll take a look at a New York Post article that talks about the new DV statistics that are out there for men, because it seems like it is becoming increasingly reported that these events are propagated by women, although it still looks like most of the events that are reported are propagated by men. We're just seeing an uptick in reporting of female offenders. So let's jump in. Before I get started, make sure you like this video, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell. And let's see what the tea is from Chris Brown himself.
To see Rihanna and Chris when they first started dating, it was magical, you know? And those two, they were kind of inseparable, you know? You would hear about them being in the studio, you would hear, you know, they're coming into the club together, and it was just an energy.
At that time in our career, being that young, being naive, gullible, but also just happy, just wanting to be everywhere. I mean, it was no other feeling like it. But with her, with Rhea, it was just like, our power that we had at that age, it was just, it's dangerous, man. Like, you could go anywhere. Like, we couldn't go to a hotel and not have 1,000 fans outside waiting. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't go to any restaurant and just eat. Like, real life rock stars at 16 and 17 years old, man, that's dangerous. Because you could do whatever you want. I just think we were like the perfect, like, and bad combination. Like, it was just good and bad together. It was just, I want to say maybe a year and a half into the relationship with Rihanna, I really was serious about it.
I understand that this is a celebrity couple that was really powerful at a really young age, and that's not necessarily going to translate for regular couples, but I assure you this stuff is happening through various socioeconomic statuses. So to see it pointed out from high status celebrities is helpful. That way we can see that this stuff does in fact exist. However, I am curious as to how this ended up suppressed by the media. Somehow Rihanna got an interview with Oprah. Doesn't seem like Chris Brown got an interview. Also, he kind of got blacklisted after this a little bit. Now, he's still been successful. It just has been a very damaging thing for his career to have this incident to occur in the first place, and nobody ever asked how it started.
You know, I was always goofy about everything else being a young kid, but the maturity level I had in my beliefs of what I wanted with my girlfriend, you know what? I want to marry you, but I want, before, you know, we go any further, I just want to be able to be honest and be completely real with you about everything. If you've ever had a question about or a doubt about, or she had asked me, like, right when we first started dating, hey, you ever mess with this person? And this person, she worked for me at the time. And I said, nah, man, you know what it is. Just, you know, I brushed it to the side. One, I didn't want her knowing my business. Two, I just didn't know who she would tell if I tell her what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? So.
I'm sorry, like, why would you date such a young, successful rapper if you didn't think that there was a possibility that he might step out on the relationship? You know, there is such a thing as high value problems that a lot of us could just say no to. You fly too close to the sun and you get burned. Also, like, who would believe Chris Brown? I would not believe Chris Brown. Like, if I was dating Chris Brown, whoever I was, and it was during that era in the early 2000s, let me see, what era was this? Hold on. Like, if I was an intelligent woman and I was dating Chris Brown in the late 2000s, I just wouldn't believe him if he said he was faithful. I don't even know how Rihanna was able to convince herself that this man was faithful. I don't know. I don't condone it. I think that monogamy is a wonderful and a beautiful thing, but I also think that it's really, 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 really hard to be monogamous if you're like that young, that rich, that quick. Come on. I don't know what this woman was believing. No, he definitely didn't mess with that lady. I'm sure he did.
Around like the 8th month or maybe like a little bit after that VMA performance, I just broke it to her. I said, hey, I want to marry you, but I want to be real with you. I want to be honest with you and tell you, everything. This is what it is. Before we were together, me and this other girl did have sex. My trust totally was lost with her. You know what I'm saying? She hated me. After that, I tried everything. Like, she didn't care. Like, she just didn't trust me after that.
And she's with A$AP Rocky right now, and I'm not saying that A$AP isn't stepping out, but I'd be curious to see if Rihanna's perspective on infidelity in such high status individuals has changed. We'll never know. I don't think there's gonna be like a second Oprah interview, but it would be cool if there was.
There, it just went downhill because, it would be fights, it would be verbal fights, physical fights as well, mutual sides, and this is the first time I get to say anything. And like I said, I still love Rihanna, but I'm just gonna be honest. We would fight each other. She would hit me, I would hit her. But it never was okay. It was always a point to where we talk about it, like, yo, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I don't like that. I don't like you slapping me. If I go on stage, I got a scratch on my face, and I gotta explain it like, oh, no, I fell, or like, if you got a scar or whatever, or a bruise, you gotta put makeup on it. I feel like shit. Like I'm not ever trying to put my hands on any female. Like me, I felt like a fucking monster. 7 years ago, when I was about 17, 18, the whole Rihanna incident happened. And, a lot of that changed my life.
Wow, so he was 17 or 18. Also, very, 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 very low impulse control in that situation in the first place. You toss in some fame. So what happened with that incident when he was that young has carried over to this man to the present day, which I think is shocking. But I also understand the public doesn't forgive. I just think that if it came out that Rihanna was out here whooping him too, that somehow her career would be fine. Shout out to Amber Heard, who somehow did not manage to get fired from all of her projects, but Johnny Depp did first. But it seems like Hollywood has gotten some kind of hint, and so she's not able to find work lately, which is nice, but she was able to keep work for quite some time, even when it seemed like it was shenanigans. And I mean, the shenanigans got really bad, and she literally crapped the bed. But back to Chris.
And that night at that Clive Davis party, that I made sure the person that I was involved with before, I said, hey, you can't come around to these places. And the person comes right to the table and say, hey, what's up, y'all? And I already know it's an issue, so I say, hey, cool. And I keep it, and they keep it moving and leave. I look over at Rihanna, and she's bawling, she's just crying. In the middle of the ceremony about to start, she's just crying, and I'm like, yo, please, babe, don't do this. Like, don't do this in here. Like I didn't know, I promise, I swear to God, I didn't know. So she got over it, she started drinking a little bit, we both were drinking a little bit. We was tipsy, laughing, joking.
There's actually a significant portion of DV, so family violence crimes, that occur that are influenced by alcohol. It's actually quite standard in the data and statistics out there that alcohol is a huge component to that.
And then we left.
And Juan, just a few hours ago, we saw Chris Brown drive off. According to sources, the alleged fight broke out inside a Lamborghini that was located at Hancock Park.
As you know, young relationships, any relationship is based on trust, but because I told her that, she didn't trust me with anything. So I would give her the option of, oh, you can look at my phone. So I gave her the phone. She looks at the phone, and there's a message, and it says, kill the Grammys, do your thing. And I didn't read the rest of the message, I didn't open it. So she opened the message, and the rest of the message said, I'll see you at the Clive party. So All thought she thought I was lying. She starts going off, she throws the phone, I hate you, whatever. So
I just wish he would have told her sooner that she was a main chick who also alternated as a side chick at times. I feel like maybe so much could have been avoided. I'm not sure. Because when women run into these situations, a lot of the times they just don't want to pursue a less desirable man, which, you know, I get it, but it just never seems wise. Can understand it, but I cannot condone it.
she's hitting me. We're in a little Lamborghini. You know, she's fighting me, and I'm like, look, I'm telling you the truth, I swear to God. You know, I'm telling you the truth, stop it. So then she hits me a couple more times, and I just kind of it doesn't go from translation to, let's sit down, I'm telling you the truth. It goes to, now I'm finna be mean and be evil, arguing.
So he's driving and she starts hitting him because that's safe. And let it had happened that they got into a car accident and what even would the media have concocted from that?
Arguing. So then, like I remember she tried to kick me. It's like just her just being upset. But then I really hit her, like I with a closed fist, like I punched her, you know, and it busted her lip. And when I saw it, I was in shock. I was like, fuck, why the hell did I hit her? Like, so from there, she just spit in my face, like spit the blood in my face, and I'm like, yo, so it enraged me even more. Like it's a real on fight in a car. We driving down the street. So I'm like, yo, man, we tripping. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing? She's trying to grab for my phone, and I'm not giving her my phone to throw it out of the window. So she grabs my nuts, and when she do that, I bite her arm, I think, as I'm driving, because I'm still trying to drive. And it's just like a petty, like stupid fight, bro. And I'm just realizing it. I'm like, look, what the hell am I doing, bro? Like, what are you, like, you honestly doing this in a car right now? Like, what are we doing? So I pull over in Hancock Park, maybe less than 2-3 miles from my house, because I'm just trying to resolve the situation.
All right, that's pretty much enough details. The whole video is honestly mind-blowing. Biggest media cover-up I've seen in a long time. I know that there are worse cover-ups than a celebrity couple in a DV situation, but I mean, as somebody who enjoys Hollywood gossip, I feel like it could have been more transparent and out there. Unfortunately, it was not. So now we're gonna go and we're gonna switch over and check out a New York Post article that talks about domestic violence and men, because right now, as it stands per the CDC, 1 in 4 women is a victim of DV, and then 1 in 7 men is a victim of DV. Now, I don't believe that to be particularly true. I think that it is very likely that this kind of situation is 50-50, that women are capable of violence, men are capable of violence. It just seems like one perpetrator gets reported less, and then the left really likes to go on with this point that it's because of toxic masculinity. I don't think it's because of toxic masculinity that men don't report. I think it just is more likely, if these men were to report these women, that men would get arrested whether they were in the right or in the wrong. So if they're in the wrong and you call and you report your woman and you somehow still end up going to jail, I wouldn't call either. I don't think it's healthy. I don't condone it, but I can definitely understand why men are more skeptical of the system that seems to favor women. We can't keep gaslighting them either and be like, it's toxic masculinity, that's why you're not reporting. No, they're not reporting because they don't want to go to jail, man. They don't want to go to jail. That's my opinion. That's my perspective. As Kevin Samuels used to say, I've been brown a long time. And these women are not just sitting down and eating tea and crumpets when these situations end up ensuing. Other people can have their own experiences and opinions. I just know that I'm a very observant individual, and I do believe that as humans, we're both equally capable of violence. Do I think one sex is stronger than the other? Yes, that would be men. But it doesn't mean that women aren't going to lash out. And we do lash out in aggressive ways. We can't avoid that as human beings. Now, to this article, these shelters help male victims of DV. In Dallas, Texas, a group has opened what's believed to be the second shelter in the U.S. exclusively for men who are victims of DV, as advocates say more men are seeking help amid changing views about male victims. We're trying to help men understand that it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be vulnerable, said Paige Flink, CEO of the Family Place in Dallas. Before opening the 21-bed shelter in a 2-story home in May, Flink's organization, like many others, housed male victims in hotels. But Flink said that not only was that becoming costly as the numbers grew, it also wasn't an ideal arrangement for victims to get support. So these men couldn't get housing, so she would go and pay for hotel rooms for these men to stay in who were victims of DV. And this is only one of a handful of shelters in the United States. I've only found that there were about 4. There is one in Dallas, Texas, Lancaster, California, Miami, Florida, and Batesville, Arkansas. But a lot of the shelters that I've read up on, which isn't many, they're more co-ed in a sense. So this one is special because it caters to men only, the one that it is in Dallas. The number of male victims calling the National Domestic ABUSE hotline and its youth-based focus project, Love is Respect, has been growing. Last year, about 12,000 male victims called, about 9% of victims who identified their gender. That's about double the about 5,800 male victim callers from 2010, said hotline spokeswoman Kamika Crawford. We believe that there are likely many more men who may not report it or seek help for a number of reasons. Honestly, I just find a lot of the reasons that people tend to cite are disingenuous. Valley Oasis in Lancaster, California says it was the first in the U.S. to accept men into its shelter. It created an environment where maybe for the first time for female victims and male victims that they could actually talk to members of the opposite sex that were not going to hurt them, that were not going to degrade them, said CEO Carol Crabson, who said the shelter houses victims in cottages on its campus. The first shelter in the U.S. solely for men opened 2 years ago in Batesville, Arkansas, a town of about 11,000. Patty Duncan, executive director of Family Violence Prevention, Inc., said that when a 3-bedroom home was donated to her organization, her thoughts turned to male victims. I could just see that they were in the situation, but they didn't have anybody that they thought they could call. And speaking with them, that was what they would tell you as well. Where am I going to go? Who is going to believe me? Here, I'm a big guy, and who is going to think that I'm telling the truth? It's just got me thinking. Duncan said that before Taylor House opened, male victims stayed at her group's women's shelter, but staffers, she said, have noticed that those staying in the all-male shelter seem to have more of a freedom to be upset. They don't have to put on a strong kind of I'm okay, she said, adding their feelings can be hurt, they can be sad, they can be angry, and they're not seen as being aggressive. They can talk about how it felt to be physically hit and not feel emasculated. Hines said some men don't even realize they're being ABUSE'd until they read pamphlets, mostly geared toward women, listing ABUSE signs. If you are the man, that's a very difficult process to figure out, she said. So that about covers that side and situation. No, I don't think Chris Brown is at the status that he would have to go to a shelter. But the point of this is that I personally believe that when it comes to these situations, it is 50-50. I think that there is a certain violent yin and yang that can go on where two individuals don't know how to walk away from a situation because they haven't been taught to, or worse, they've been taught not to, which I think is just such a problem. And that's why we have to have these conversations. Now, looking at the Bureau of Justice statistics, I'm looking at a table. It's going to be linked in the description down below. It's table 2.3. It's going to be hard to theorize, but work with me here. So the data set is from 32 plus million family violence crimes, and we're looking at violent crimes and then who are the victims of those violent crimes. And this is from the years 1998 to 2002, but it's still a good data set. The numbers can be a lot different now because it's been about 20 years, but it still illustrates a point. So right off the bat, you can look at the percent of crimes in which the victim was the offender's family member versus a non-family member, and all the way on the left you'll see victim characteristic. So for male victims, they were 54.9% of all violent crimes in reference to family violence. And then if you look at the female victims, they are 45.1% of all violent crimes related to family violence. Now, if you look further on down the line, you're going to see that it seems that women are the greater victims from their spouses, which during that era, we're just going to assume most people are heterosexual. We're going to have to make some assumptions looking at this data set. I am sorry. This is before the they, them, and theirs. Zim, zer. It was before then. So women seem to be more victimized by their male partners, and then men don't seem to be as victimized by their female partners, implying that they would have a female spouse. I don't believe that. I just don't think that men are as likely to report in the first place, and I think women are a lot more likely to do so. I'm not at all excusing any form of ABUSE. I'm just saying that that's how I think the world works, and people can debate that all day long, but I know what I've witnessed, and I know what I've witnessed in other families, and I know that when there is a lower socioeconomic status involved, that there are a lot of risk factors that would lead to these events to occur, or just an increased likelihood of these events to occur. But moving on, you'll see that it goes pretty much down the line that it seems that women are victimized more by men. However, that is a little bit confusing because of the fact that men are over half, a little over half, 54.9% in comparison to 45.1%. They are over half of the victims of violent crimes. And this is 32 million cases. And I'm just not at all convinced that this is propagated less by the opposite sex at all. Although if you look at who was the victim's offender, and if you're looking at the men that were involved, 15.7% of that was a spouse, 37.1% was a son or daughter, and then other family member is 37.1%. When you are looking at the women, female, the spouse is 84.3% of the offenders, son or daughter 62.9% of the offender, and other family 62.9% of the offender. So I think it's possible that, men are being found of being violent crime victims in family violence, and they're just maybe not saying who's doing it. I don't know. That's just what I think. This is the gynocentric social order. I wish it wasn't, but it simply is. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below in regard to this particular phenomenon that occurs in homes. I am just, you guys know my thoughts. My thoughts are what they are. And I've been to many urban cities. I've moved around a lot. I've met other families. I made tons of observations. And as Kevin Samuels used to say, what do you mean? You were just eating some tea and crumpets and he just showed up and he started whooping you? Yeah, okay. Again, not excusing anything. I just wish it was a conversation that happened, because if we ignore that women are capable of violence against men, although we can probably infer that that is possible, then we also ignore that women are capable of violence against children. And that's what I think is actually dangerous. And it's not to say that one sex is worse than the other by any means. It's just, as a society, we just have to be more open and honest with these conversations so that the kiddos are less affected and less neglected. That is why I made this video today. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What have been some of your personal observations and experiences? And if you're a man who was a victim of DV, go ahead and share how that happened in the comment section down below, because a lot of people are going to be confused, because from their perspective, they're like, what do you mean? She's smaller. How could that possibly happen to you? And I'm sure you've got an incredible story to tell about it. So go ahead and do so. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.